This hour of the Costa Report is brought to you by Dole Food Company, the world's leading producer and distributor of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Welcome to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and thank you for joining me for another 2 hours of straight talk radio. I want to welcome new listeners who are joining us today from coast to coast in every state in the Union, and also members of our armed forces who are tuning in over the internet. Thank you for making us part of your news week. In just a moment, a man whose career as an investigative journalist began at a time when reporters needed more than hearsay or one independent confirmation before breaking a story, and who, along with partner Carl Bernstein, broke the Watergate scandal. Mr. Bob Woodward will be joining us to talk about whether technology and the speed at which information now moves has damaged the media's credibility, and more importantly, what can be done to restore the people's faith in the press. So tighten your seatbelts as we get ready to tackle fake news, alternative facts, and the latest release of CIA documents by WikiLeaks in the upcoming hour. But before Mr. Woodward joins us, as is my custom each week, let me tell you a little about his background. Robert Upshur Woodward was born in Geneva, Illinois, and is a graduate of Yale College and served 5 years in the United States Navy. Though he considered attending law school, he landed a brief, life-changing 2-week trial at the Washington Post as a reporter, after which the Post passed on offering Woodward a permanent position due to his lack of experience. But Woodward, he had found his calling, so undaunted by his first run at the Post, he went to work getting the journalistic experience that he needed. He went to work at the Montgomery Sentinel, and by 1971, he was hired by the Washington Post, where today he serves as associate editor. But what you may remember Mr. Woodward best for is his work with Carl Bernstein on bringing the Watergate crimes to the public's attention, which eventually led to the resignation of President Nixon. Or for one of his 18 best-selling books. I'm so jealous. I'm barely getting my second book out the door, and he's got 18 to his name. What can I say? He has been called the most important investigative journalist in modern times and has not only been responsible for 2 Pulitzer Prizes, but also won more awards than we have time to go into today. It's my pleasure to welcome associate editor of the Washington Post and a journalist widely respected by the left and right of the political spectrum, Mr. Bob Woodward. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Woodward.
Thank you.
As you know, one of the first things President Trump and Press Secretary Spicer have done is to put the press on notice, accusing the mainstream media of inaccurate reporting, fake and agendized news, and in general, doing a poor job of informing the public of the facts. Now, you've been in the business of reporting the news since 1971, so I'd like to get your view on how processes such as getting second and third confirmation of facts have been discarded for the sake of speed. Does Trump have a point when he says the media needs to take a hard look at itself?
Well, I think we always need to take a hard look at ourselves, and in a sense, that's an ongoing look. Some of the criticism is valid, but the idea that the media or the press is the enemy of the people is just not true. And anyone who has said that, whether it's the president or somebody in his circle, knows that it's not true. At the same time, people get angry, disagree with things. There are things that are published that probably shouldn't be published, but we, as you suggest, we live in the Internet age, and impatience and speed drives way too much, and so things get published, and often they get corrected, but often they don't. So we're in a transition period, but I think in the business of news reporting or in-depth investigative reporting, we need to slow down a little and be careful. And I think there's more care than carelessness from the news media.
Now, one of the most admirable aspects of your investigation of the Watergate scandal was the fact that the editor of the Washington Post forced you and Bernstein to sit on that story until you could produce corroborating evidence. But these days, it feels as if the media is allowed to report on their suspicions alone. Let's take the connection between the president and Russia, for example. Can you help us understand what actual evidence, outside of these conversations with the Russian ambassador by Sessions and Flynn and even Manafort, I mean, what actual evidence is there of collusion?
Well, I think it's been reported rather widely. There's no evidence of collusion at this point. This is what is being investigated, at least by the Congress, apparently the FBI. I think the whole thing is very murky, and we're just going to have to be patient, as our former editor at the Washington Post said frequently. The truth emerges, often not fast enough. Everyone would like to speed up the process, but it isn't going to happen here, I'm pretty sure. But this is the nature of public life. This is the nature of suspicions that are developed, and in cases, some of this, there is ground for suspicion. But you're right, there's no, at least I am unaware of hard evidence.
But that's what bothers me. It's the grounds for suspicion. You know, the two main grounds seem to be the fact that a warrant was issued by the Obama administration to either, tap the server or wiretap to see if there was communication going on with Russia.
Well, now, wait a minute.
Right?
That's what Trump has alleged.
Yes, but we don't know.
Well, we know there's no evidence out there yet that there was this wiretap or this warrant, or at least it hasn't been produced. But if you're in public life, you swim in the sea of uncertainty quite frequently, and you just kind of have to go along with that. It's not nice. Often people will say things that are untrue or don't have a basis, but Trump has himself said many things that are very controversial. He has attacked all kinds of people, criticized people, so he placed himself in this arena. I can understand his angst about it all, but it's not going to be fixed right away, and everyone kind of needs to take a Valium gargle and step back and say, okay, we're going to get to the bottom of this, or we're going to try anyway.
But as you point out, we're not a very patient society these days. I mean, thanks to the internet, people want to get their news out literally overnight. And the Watergate investigation went on for years. Yes,
it did. It was 2 years, 2 months from the Watergate burglary in June 1972 until August 1974, when Nixon resigned. So we're going to have to see. I think one of the problems in all of this is there's too much discussion about the media. There's too much self-focus now. In fairness, Trump has raised so much of this himself, but I'm much more interested in what he's really doing, what his policies are. I think that's what will have an impact on people. I think the media is generally off stage, and it's a good place for us to remain, if possible.
Yes, I understand. But at the same time, you have also called for the media to go back to basics, which I greatly admire. I think there are some basics that we could go back to and bring some credibility back to the press. We have to take our first break, but stay right where you are. We'll be back with more from Bob Woodward. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Are you or someone you know suffering from a complex medical issue, seen multiple doctors, specialists, and had extensive testing done with still no answers? You're not alone. 1/3 of U.S. families have suffered from an unresolved medical condition after seeing 2 or more physicians. CrowdMed can help. CrowdMed streamlines the healthcare process, saving patients time and money in unnecessary hospital visits and irrelevant procedures, helping them get back to health faster. CrowdMed's secret to success is a network of doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals who collaborate with their unique sets of medical expertise to solve these complex cases faster. CrowdMed works in conjunction with the healthcare system, providing patients with medically sound information that's validated and confirmed by a licensed physician. CrowdMed has achieved a 75% success rate, producing a correct diagnosis in an average of just 2 to 3 months. To see how CrowdMed can help you or someone you love, go to crowdmed.com today. That's crowdmed.com.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-350-9514. That's 1-800-350-9514. Again, 1-800-350-9514.
Hi, registered pharmacist Ben Fuchs here. I've been studying healthy bodies for 35 years, and what I've got to tell you may shock and surprise you, but if you listen up, it may change your life. By far, the leading cause of death worldwide is a class of illnesses doctors call non-communicable diseases, or NCDs. These are chronic long-term illnesses that aren't spread from person to person and that don't resolve themselves. One of the more recently described NCDs is a constellation of symptoms referred to as TINU or TINU. TINU, which stands for tubulointerstitial nephritis and uveitis, is an inflammation of the kidney blood vessels, that's the tubulointerstitial nephritis part, and the eyes, that's the uveitis. But this breakdown is not restricted to the eyes and kidneys, that's just where it's noticed. In other words, as exotic and complicated as it sounds, TINU is just another run-of-the-mill circulatory issue that affects the entire body. To reverse TINU or any other circulation system disease, whether it involves the kidneys, the eyes, heart, or the blood flow itself, it's best to take a twofold approach. In the first place, strengthening blood vessels with nutrition, and in the second place, reducing the burdens on the circulatory system by eliminating digestive stresses, lowering blood sugar, and reducing psychological strain, which can put undue pressure on circulatory vessels. That means working on the digestive system by eliminating problem foods and using probiotics, working on the blood sugar system by eating less sweets and flour and processed foods and drink, and turning on the relaxation nervous system. Use nutrition, make sure you're practicing your deep breathing, and of course, mental and emotional strategies are really important. And these are all simple things that everyone should be doing, TINU or not. Pharmacist Ben here, urging you to go to kscohealth.com to order Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Healthy Start Pack, and other nutritional supplements that I personally use and recommend. You can purchase these premium quality products at wholesale prices online at kscohealth.com. That's kscohealth.com. I'm the pharmacist that believes that staying healthy and strong is not only about medicine, it's about giving your body the raw materials it needs to do its work. Go to kscohealth.com. Make sure you check out the cool videos too at kscohealth.com. That's kscohealth.com.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is Associate Editor of the Washington Post, Mr. Bob Woodward. And before the break, we were speaking about the patience needed when tackling an investigation like Trump's claim of wiretapping by the Obama administration. Now, Mr. Woodward, many people are comparing this alleged wiretapping to Watergate. I'd like to get your feelings about that. In one case, in Trump's particular case, there seems to be a claim that there were warrants issued, which is largely different from what happened in Watergate.
Well, certainly. I mean, Trump is alleged in a tweet that there was this wiretapping and that it was like Watergate and like Nixon. As we talked about earlier, I certainly know of no evidence to support that. And if it was done, was it done legally? I just don't know. I think in many ways this is a red herring. I think it's not something that's going to turn out to be true, something that's not going to have any evidence to support it. But that's where we are now. But it's certainly not like Watergate. In Watergate, it was 5 burglars apprehended in the Democratic Party headquarters, clearly an illegal break-in. They were arrested and eventually put on trial for this. So it's a clear violation of law. What we have now is a very murky, vague allegation.
Assuming that warrants were issued, then it would be a legal wiretapping. I mean, there isn't a crime associated with that, even during a presidential election, is there?
Well, if there were warrants, in other words, if the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court issued this as part of a counterintelligence investigation, but there's no evidence of that. And I think people who have looked at this pretty much think there's nothing to support it.
Right, but if there was a warrant by that court, it certainly would not rise to any illegal activity. Probably
not, but I'm not sure. I mean, for the sitting president or the president-elect or a presidential candidate to be the subject of some sort of surveillance, I just think on the face, if that turns out to be true, is whether illegal or not, it's certainly improper.
Right. I think it's more of a moral or ethical issue than it would be a legal issue if there was a warrant. And more importantly, it didn't damage Trump's ability to become elected.
Well, but it wasn't known if it's true. I mean, there was supposedly some sort of investigations, but I honestly think it's going to take months or maybe a year or more to get to the bottom of this, and I think a lot of it's just not going to be much. But we'll see.
Well, I trust your nose, Mr. Woodward.
Well,
your nose has served us well, so
but the nose doesn't lead on this. Facts lead, and the facts are not known, and these things are. If there was something, it would be highly classified. But I think in the scheme of things, people shouldn't worry about this.
Okay. Well, we certainly have other things to worry about. Now, one of the ways that Trump seems to be trying to bypass the mainstream media and go direct to the general public is his use of Twitter. And he seems to be treating Twitter the way that politicians have used state-sponsored television and radio to go direct to the public in the past. Is there danger that the president's tweets are driving too much of the news?
No, look. The First Amendment applies. He's entitled to do this. It turns out to have been politically effective. Trump certainly is not the first president who tried to appeal to the public directly. All presidents I've written books on, going back from Nixon through Obama, have done this. They give speeches, press conferences. They go
fireside chats.
Yeah, well, none of them have tried that recently. That goes back to FDR. But that's not new. One of the clever things Trump did is land on tweets, and it drives a lot of news. And when the president says some of the things he says, that clearly is news. You've got to treat it and cover it. And I think the media has done that. At the same time, you have to test it. Is it true? Is there contrary evidence?
But I don't know if people are in the mode of testing tweets.
Well, but the press is. The press will take those and will weigh it against other evidence. But I think if the media didn't cover these tweets, he supposedly has tens of millions of followers. I'm not sure those are people who are regularly or certainly daily tuning in to what he says. I think, again, it's the media that covers this, and that's how people learn about what he has tweeted.
We seem to be in this we seem to be establishing a very weird trend here where the president directly tweets out to the public and then the media has to vet the tweet. And then that puts them in a sort of an oppositional position with the president because you're vetting after the fact.
Well, but that's what happens in press conferences, too, or speeches. Presidents or candidates will say things, and often if it's a speech like Trump's speech to Congress a couple of weeks ago, there was no way to interrogate that. So that's not particularly unusual.
But what is unusual is we're vetting every few hours.
Well, I think he does most of his tweets in the morning. So
yes.
But it can be done around the clock. But that's okay. I'm not disturbed about that. That's the First Amendment. He's making his statements. What is interesting, it turns out that these 140-character tweets are quite serviceable in the media market these days. People's attention span is much lower, and he gets lots of attention, and he says things in a very colorful way. He says some things that are nasty, and he says things that often can't be supported.
Yes, and what winds up happening later, I think, is as it gets investigated, as a tweet gets vetted and investigated, then certain questions come up, and it kind of puts the president on the defensive. But as you say, that's happened before in speeches and other statements presidents have made. It just seems to be happening on very short cycles these days. We have to take another scheduled intermission, but stay tuned. We'll return right after these important messages from today's sponsors. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Are you struggling with addiction or alcohol problems? If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help. And the Affordable Care Act guarantees coverage of substance abuse.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969.
KSCO is gathering together to raise money for the Special Olympics Northern California by taking a fun polar plunge into the ocean at the Santa Cruz main beach. The money raised will provide sports training and competition opportunities to the over 19,000 Special Olympics athletes. The KSCO Coldcasters are asking the community to make a donation to help create opportunities for children and adults with intellectual differences, instilling the confidence they need to succeed in life and have fun. Please join the Coldcasters to make a difference. Go to sonc.org to make a donation to Team Coldcasters. The event is on Saturday, March 11th and starts at 11:30 a.m. Don't forget, go to sonc.org to make a donation to Teen Coldcasters.
Healthcare that fits your Santa Cruz lifestyle. That's why Dignity Health Dominican Hospital and Dignity Health Medical Group Dominican work with you to make personal choices regarding your health. It's the type of care we can offer because we're more than just a hospital and medical group. We're part of this community. Visit DominicanHospital.org to find a doctor and start living healthy today. Healthcare that fits your Santa Cruz lifestyle. Dignity Health. Hello, human kindness.
I hear church bells ringing, and this time they're ringing for my family. Hello, folks. Michael Olson here. When I learned I was going to be the father of the bride, I went straight to the bridal veil in Capitola. Joanne and Lisa Ceccatini had me fitted up and ready to give away the bride.
It's always fun. Every girl is a new story. When she comes in, we get to find the perfect dress for her, and we see the smiles and the tears with the family when the dress is the right dress for her. And that's always fun. It never gets boring. In 42 years, I've never been bored at our store.
It is one of my most favorite things to see a dad walk in toward the end of our meeting together with the bride, the mom, and the aunt, or whoever shows up that day, and they want dad's approval. It's very heartwarming because there is a little bit of a tear sometimes that happens, and then this heartwarming joy that fills the room.
When there's a wedding in your family, go straight to the bridal veil, 2121 41st Avenue in Capitola, bridalveilfashions.com.
Biotech is the new insect repellent for crops, so what's still bugging us? The compromise of genetic variation and buildup of resistance. Join Michael Olson Saturday at 9 a.m. as the Food Chain hosts Dr. Andy Dyer, Associate Professor of Biology at the University of South Carolina, Aiken, into a battle of biodiversity. It's What's Eating What, Saturday, 9 a.m. on the Food Chain.
What day was that?
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, my guest today is Bob Woodward. Now, President Trump is not the only leader determined to take his case direct to the public. In the past couple of days, WikiLeaks has made 9,000 documents from the CIA's Center for Cyber Intelligence public. Between the president's tweets and WikiLeaks and smartphones that capture any and everything on video, are we entering a new era of transparency?
Forced transparency, perhaps, but I would not make equivalent what the president puts out and what WikiLeaks is doing. WikiLeaks has somehow got individuals or got into allegedly into some of the CIA computers and is putting this stuff out. That is not normal process. When the president puts out his comments and his tweets and gives speeches and his cabinet and administration make declarations, that's kind of normal process. WikiLeaks is not.
There are some that claim that WikiLeaks is a new breed of news bureau, one that owes no allegiance to any country or political agenda. Their whole philosophy is full transparency of what governments are doing. Do you believe that that's a trend in news, or is this really espionage?
Well, first of all, it's not a news bureau, and the intelligence community in that report they issued in January said that the information that WikiLeaks put out came from Russia, and they were acting as an arm directly or indirectly of the Russian government. So that is hardly comparable to a news bureau.
But again, we don't have facts to buttress that. That again is a bit of hearsay, isn't it?
No, they put out a report. They made that claim. Now, they also said that all of the basis for it, the intelligence basis, was highly classified. So you can be appropriately skeptical of that or accept it as something our intelligence people said.
But how do you deal with that? I mean, you're dealing with the intelligence agencies in Washington every day. They tell you something, and then you ask for corroborating evidence, and they tell you, well, that's classified. What do you do with that?
Well, then you don't publish it. You want to find some corroboration, and for it to be anchored in some reality. But your point, your larger point, I think, is an interesting one, and that is that we're increasingly unsure of what we're being told by political figures, by the news media, by something like WikiLeaks. We're not clear of who's behind it, what the motive is. So I think one impact here is that a lot of people have just tuned out. There's some polling that I think is very interesting, that Trump, who got 46% of the vote, basically the polling shows 46% of the people still support him. And the problems that he has had, the criticism that has been made of his first couple of months, isn't taking with lots of people. I saw a poll that said, asked the question, do you believe the news media is enemy of the people? Mm-hmm. And the story on it tried to tell you, oh, well, this is good news. Only 38% believe that. Well, that's pretty astonishing that 38% of the people might believe that the media is the enemy of the people. That doesn't mean you can't criticize the media or that you shouldn't and be skeptical about it. But enemy of the people has got lots of historical overtones and suggests that it's not, that the media is not just negligent, but actively trying to undermine government or the new administration. Now, there are people who allege that, people who believe that.
But that's pretty hard to put at the doorstep of Donald Trump. I mean, what has the media done to earn that? That would be my first question.
Well, he's the one who's criticized it, and he made the point some weeks ago, I think. He said it's about tone, and there is a tone in the coverage that is often sarcastic and negative, and not just on the opinion pages. So, in a sense, I think he's got a point here. What I want to go back to the really large question: what's he going to do? There are roughly, I think, 7 areas, maybe 8, where he's going to make major policy decisions, or there's going to be legislation or not.
Right.
The first is the economy. What's he going to do about the economy? Tax reform, Obamacare, some of the domestic programs. That's all hanging. We do not know. What's he going to do about cybersecurity? Clearly a big, a mounting problem in this country, in the world. Somebody told me the other day that one of these countries can literally turn off the lights in a city if they want. Mm-hmm. Other area, counterterrorism. We haven't had a mass casualty terrorist attack in this country since 9/11. Many defenses have been built up. The intelligence agencies, particularly the FBI, work very aggressively on that. But it's been successful. Well, is it going to continue to be successful? What is the Trump policy going to be in the Middle East, which many people describe as a cauldron? Many of the problems in the Middle East just were only got worse in the Obama years, many people allege. What's going to be the policy toward Russia? If Trump reaches out to the Russian leader, Putin, but people have told me in building up the military, Trump is going to do lots of things Putin doesn't like. So where's that going? What's the policy toward China, toward North Korea, where you have a highly unstable leader with nuclear weapons? What's going to happen with immigration and trade issues? So the things that, if we talked in a year or two or at the end of Trump's 4 years, we would look back and say, these are the kinds of things that are going to measure his success or failure as a president. Those are the sort of things that are going to impact people's lives, and we get caught up in this swirl of tweets and all kinds of things that aren't in those core areas that are going to define the future.
I cannot agree with you more, Mr. Woodward. I think that is a very important list that you just cited. But at the same time, I am troubled by the fact that none of the tweets address any of that list. and this is why I said earlier, are the tweets driving too much of what the media is jumping on? Because none of the tweets address any of that. He doesn't tweet about...
Some of the tweets do address parts of it, but they...
Well, not very many. I mean, I haven't seen very many tweets about the cauldron in the Middle East and what's going to be done there. I don't see tweets about the cyber security. Yes, a few about immigration, but they were more campaign slogans.
Some about North Korea and so forth.
Some recently.
There's some out there, but what are these policies going to be, and what is the legislation going to be?
Well, we're going to have to take a short break. When we come back, let's talk about that list. You're listening to the Costa Report.
$100,000 inside an old console TV set. The TV had been put in the trash, and once it got to the recycling plant, a worker found the cash as he was dismantling it. Police were actually able to track the money back to the original owner, who put it in the TV set 30 years ago and then forgot about it. Now, as you start to think about the places in your home where there might be some hidden cash, think about the treasures that are hidden in the Bible. Every page of the Bible points you to the peace and joy that are found only in a relationship with Jesus Christ. You see, Jesus died to take the penalty for your sins. That means you can live forever with God in heaven if you surrender your life to Jesus. Are you ready to crack open a Bible and discover these treasures? A great place to start is the book of John. And we're here to help you out too online. Just go to findpeacewithgod.net. We're the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association.
I'm here today with Scott Caraccioli of Caraccioli Cellars, recent winners of the best sparkling wine in the U.S. in the Champagne and Sparkling Wine World Championship. Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
So what is it about your Brut Cuvée that beat all the other competitors around the world?
We really focus on creating an expression of the Santa Lucia Highlands and doing it the right way. And when you control the process from the beginning to the end and you have talent like Michelle and top-tier grapes, they really shine through.
This was a worldwide competition.
It was definitely a humbling experience. We were in a room with producers that have been making wine for over 100, 200 years, and was a huge honor to have Tom Stevenson give us the best U.S. Sparkling Wine Award. We fared really well overall. We had 3 wines win Best of Class, which was great.
Visit the Caraccioli Tasting Room on Dolores Street in Carmel by the Sea, or find us online at caracciolicellars.com, or reach us by phone 831-622-7722.
Is your computer running real slow like this? Or are you getting the blue screen of death? Do you have to do a restart several times a session? Tired of viruses, spyware, malware, and slow, worthless tech support? Face it, it's too late to download another free PC Fix-It program, thinking it'll be restored to out-of-box purity. Oh, no. You need the fast, friendly computer pros at User Friendly Computing. Just drop it off at their office at 505 River Street across from the Gateway Plaza, or give them a call at 831-423-9653, and they'll come to you. Mention KSCO and get a free $50 diagnostic. PC or Mac, desktop or laptop, they can do it all at User-Friendly Computing. Call 831-423-9653.
Coast Paper and Supply, a proud member of Think Local First, is positively impacting our environment. They're providing green businesses with eco-friendly cleaners, food service products, and other biodegradable items. Coast Paper and Supply is located at 151 Josephine Street in Santa Cruz and is open weekdays 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. You can give them a call at 831-423-3350. That's 831-423-3350. Or visit coastpapersupplyinc.com.
Hi, this is Dr. David Biles. I want to thank the listeners of the Perspective Radio Show for keeping Santa Cruz County fluoride-free and spreading the word on Agenda 21, chemtrails, geoengineering, the hazards of flu shots, vaccines, and the benefits of oil pulling and biological dentistry. Listen to me, Dr. David Biles, and the other Perspective host, Tom Quinn, as we air the most influential hour on KSCO, noon to 1 every Saturday, 1080 a.m., 104.1 FM, and KSCO.com.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, we are speaking with the associate editor of the Washington Post and award-winning investigative journalist, Mr. Bob Woodward. And before the break, you were making the point that many years from now, we'll look back and the issues that will matter will be how our new president addressed the economy, the deficit, immigration, North Korea, cybersecurity, tax reform, and so on. And I agree with you. But I was also suggesting that not only are there fewer tweets and coverage of these issues, but when it comes to foreign policy, the American public seems to be, I don't know if they're just foreign weary. I don't know what that means. Foreign weary, they don't seem to be as interested. We don't get the kind of foreign news coverage that you get from the BBC, Al Jazeera, and other foreign news bureaus. And I spend a lot of time overseas, so I can vouch for that. Can you speak to that for a moment?
Well, there is a good deal of coverage in my newspaper, the Washington Post, the New York Times. I think the networks do a pretty good job on foreign coverage, but the wars we're in, Iraq or the war against the Islamic State and the war in Afghanistan, we have reduced numbers of troops. The casualties are not high, so it's not on people's radar scope. If we get into another war or there's some calamity that occurs, then the attention will go up. But, I think you're right. People live in their private bubble more and more. I think some of that is a result of confusion and disgust with what goes on in the political world, not just President Trump, but also the Democrats and the confusion that they have really become victim of. And so it's not clear what the Democratic Party is, what the Republican Party is. So there's a lot of tune-out. And but that changes once some of these domestic or policies or foreign policies get more clearly defined.
But you would think that we'd have a wake-up call when Netanyahu has to bypass the Oval Office and present his case to the U.S. Congress.
Well, he then has met with Trump, and apparently they have established somewhat of a workable relationship. So I don't think
right. But I'm just saying that our obsession with domestic issues. You would think that when a leader like Netanyahu says, well, wait a minute, I'm going to take my case to the Congress and the American people, you would think that would be a bit of a wake-up call. Just this past week, let me just give you an example of something I was pretty shocked about. This past week, a military hospital in Afghanistan was attacked by ISIS terrorists that were posing as healthcare workers, and 30 died. And there's been a lot of recent turmoil, a lot of recent ISIS activity in Afghanistan. showing that we're not fully in control of important assets like Kabul.
Yeah, well, we've never been in full control of anything abroad in these areas where there's violence and where there's an ongoing insurgency and war.
And yet this was, I'm not talking specifically about the New York Times and the Washington Post, because you have investigative journalists there and do a good job. I'm just talking about the media at large. In comparison, when you turn on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, but any of the TV programs, there's almost, as a percentage, a minuscule coverage of what is going on in the Middle East.
Yes, I mean, again, it's people have tuned out largely. But if we have a major war or something like 9/11, let's hope doesn't happen, but something like that, some major event like the invasion of Iraq in 2003, then people will start paying more attention.
But that feels so reactive. I mean, from the standpoint of the press's obligation, I understand the press provides a conduit for visibility and also public oversight. But how about education?
Well, look, it's not a perfect process, but if you look at the coverage, I'm most familiar with the coverage in my own newspaper. We have many reporters abroad have some rather astonishing on-the-ground coverage in the Middle East, in Afghanistan. So, is it perfect? No, but there is an awful lot there.
We need you to start tweeting, Mr. Woodward.
No, see, but no, that's exactly what I should not do.
No,
I have a Twitter account.
Look, at a time when we are having trouble with veracity, I think that investigative journalists like yourself tweeting would be maybe part of the antidote.
No, see, precisely the opposite. Investigative, in-depth reporting. You spend weeks, months, or even years on something, and you try to lay out all sides and all the information. You can't reduce it to 140 characters.
You can't. You lay it out like a lawyer lays out a case, a forensic case.
Somewhat, and you can't shoehorn this into a tweet. And an effort to do that is going to be profoundly misguided, in my view.
Well, we are just about out of time, but before we run out of time, where can listeners go to get more information about your activities and your books? To my website,
bobwoodward.com, and there's a lot of information there. It goes way back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 18 books, and extensive coverage on some of the major events in the last 45 years.
One of my favorite sites to visit late at night, I will confess that. And I am afraid we are at the top of the hour, so let me take this opportunity to thank you for your public service and for continuing to challenge all of us in the media to raise our standards. Thank you, Mr. Woodward.
Thank you.
Our topic today has been the U.S. media and whether the president's criticisms have caused us to take a hard look at how the news is being reported. And speaking of taking a hard look at how we've done things in the past, I have a question for you. Here is my question. Are you hiring? And do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Posting your job in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates anymore. It's time to make a change. If all you want to find the perfect hire is to post your job on all the top job sites, well, now you can. With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post your job to 200-plus job sites, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, all with a single click. Find candidates in any city or industry nationwide. Just post once and watch your qualified candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Quickly screen candidates, rate them, and then hire the right person fast. It's so easy and so efficient to use, and it's what we at the Costa Report use to find the best talent in radio. But you can use ZipRecruiter to fill any job, whether you're looking for an IT manager, an ER nurse, administrative assistant, a computer programmer, or even a chef. ZipRecruiter is the best way to find the best person for your job. You can find out why ZipRecruiter has been used by Fortune 100 companies and thousands of small and medium-sized businesses right now by going to ZipRecruiter.com/report. You can post your job for free. That's right. Right now, listeners of this program can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/report. That's ZipRecruiter.com/report. Be sure you get that /report in there so you can take advantage of this free offer. And I have to tell you, we have been using ZipRecruiter for, I don't know, quite a long time. I don't know exactly how many months. But it is the reason we can deliver quality interviews like the one you heard today, week after week. It always leads to a fantastic group of candidates for our jobs here, and we are a small business. And that wraps up our first hour. If your station is leaving us after the first hour, my guest next week is former chairman of the Democratic Party and popular author and talk show host Bill Press. He'll be here to talk about what the president can do to encourage Democratic support. Don't miss Bill Press next week right here on the only news program that puts policy ahead of politics. You're listening to the Costa Report. Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa from the Costa Report, and I want to recommend a website for you to check out. It's called WeDon'tHaveToBeSick.com. Staying well and living longer is something we all want. And WeDon'tHaveToBeSick.com offers a simple way to get you feeling your very best. That's because WeDon'tHaveToBeSick.com understands that our biggest health challenges fall under 7 categories: bone and joint, digestion, brain, heart, blood sugar, anti-aging, and weight loss. And when we give our bodies the 90 essential nutrients it needs, nutrients like minerals, vitamins, and amino acids, many of these challenges can be avoided. So take a moment to visit WeDon'tHaveToBeSick.com and check out their modular health packs. Then order one to try for yourself. And if you get the kind of results thousands of others have, sign up for the Auto Ship program, which automatically sends you a health pack every month without shipping charges. Again, the name of the website is WeDon'tHaveToBeSick.com.
Hi, my name is Brad with Hospice of Santa Cruz County. Perhaps finding your way after losing someone can start with the little, practical things, like cooking a healthy meal for one. Join us on March 14th at 6 p.m. for our one-night-only class, Cooking for One Can Be Fun. A registered nurse and grief counselor will demonstrate techniques for easy meal preparation and create tasty dishes for you to try. Sign up by calling 831-430-3000 or visit hospicesantacruz.org.
Nurse Jackie Tucker has spent her entire professional life caring for others, and her business, Care from the Heart In-Home Services, is constantly finding new ways to support our community. Each Saturday afternoon, she brings both these passions to the airwaves in conversation with healthcare colleagues and community leaders on topics ranging from the latest medical news to civic milestones. Join Jackie on Stepping In, Saturday at 3 on 104.1 and 1080 AM.
Serving Northern California for over 65 years. This is KSCO Santa Cruz.